Alfred Adler, along with Freud and Jung, is one of the three major psychologists of the 20th century, and they were all roughly the same age. Adler was a student of Freud for a while and respected him, but over time they disagreed on some big ideas. Adler wasn't a fan of Freud's theory that everything boils down to sex. Many people today also think Freud's ideas don't quite hold up. Adler himself grew up with a strong sense of inferiority because he was the youngest in his family and had health issues. He had a hunchback and suffered from rickets as a child, which made him very aware of his own inferiority. But through dealing with his own inferiority, he made a breakthrough in psychology. He figured out the link between inferiority complexes and the pursuit of superiority. Now, what is the underlying premise of this book? It is every one of us lives in this world and encounters three types of connections or limitations that we cannot avoid, which shape our individuality. The first limitation is the natural environment. We live on a pretty barren planet. If you don't work to cultivate the land or raise animals, you won't survive. You have to constantly battle with nature to stay alive. The second limitation is social. You can't live in isolation. You need to be part of a community. Without social connections, you're just an animal, not a human being. This is the second connection. You need to work with others.
The third limitation is about continuing your genes. To do that, you need to be in a two-sex relationship. You have to find a partner and work together to continue your lineage. This is the third connection. The three big issues lead to the three most important aspects of our personal development. The first is your career, which involves how you deal with the natural environment and your job. The second is your position in society, whether you have support from friends, if you have social significance, and how you fit into the community. The third is your relationship with a partner, which includes matters of sexuality. These three issues are the foundation of Adler's theory of inferiority and overcoming it. Essentially, everyone is working hard to solve these three problems. If you handle them well, your feelings of inferiority will decrease. If you handle them poorly, your inferiority will control your life. Everyone is living with a sense of purpose, but what does that mean? Adler said that the mark of all true meanings of life is that they are common meanings. They are meanings that others can share and meanings that others can accept as valid. A good solution to the problems of life will always dear a way for others also, for in it we shall see common problems met in a successful way. That's why Adler said, every life must have meaning. Without meaning, it's hard to achieve greatness. So, who tends to have problems in childhood? Adler identified three types. First, children with imperfect organs. Like Adler himself, these kids may grow up to be like Stephen Hawking or Helen Keller because someone helped them understand their physical challenges properly. But if you can't properly explain or deal with these organ defects, it might lead to personality issues later on. You might even end up with serious mental problems. The second type is pampered children. Pampered kids are especially prone to problems. For example, they grow up expecting their wishes to be treated as laws, and they are granted prominence without working to deserve it, and will generally come to feel this prominence as a birthright. They believe that life is about being number one, being the most important person, and getting everything they want. If they see life this way, they'll end up using the wrong methods. A pampered child doesn't learn any rules or feel the need to consider others. As they grow up, they can face serious psychological issues. The third type is neglected children. You see two extremes, being pampered or being completely ignored. Such a child has never known what love and cooperation can be. He makes up an interpretation of life that does not include these friendly forces. They grow up thinking that relationships are all about struggle and that nothing comes without a fight. So, if you look at movie villains, they often reflect these two types. The pampered ones might say, "You shouldn't treat me like this." "It's such a betrayal. Why is everyone against me?" Because they were pampered as kids, they grow up feeling that everyone is against them and that no one treats them as well as their parents did. The neglected ones might say, "Do you know what I went through? In this world, if I don't fight for what I want, I get nothing. Everything you see is because you pushed me to do this." This reflects the traits of a big villain. They think everything is forced upon them. This is why we talk about positive discipline, which is gentle but firm. You need to give the child enough love without spoiling them and help them set positive boundaries. With these boundaries, the child can feel valued and connected to others, growing up to be a healthy and sunny person. So these are the types of problematic childhoods. How do you figure out if someone has psychological issues? Adler suggested an interesting method. In therapy, they ask about a person's earliest memory. What's the earliest picture you can recall from your life? This memory can reveal if there are any issues in your personality. Let me give you a few examples. If a girl's earliest memory is of a coffee pot falling off the table and scolding her, she might blame others for not taking care of her enough. You see, this is the thought that occupies her mind. She overestimated the dangers of life. Another example is that someone might remember falling out of a baby carriage at the age of 3, and this kind of memory can lead to severe anxiety and fear. Another example is a boy of 12, whose earliest memory is that his mother thought he was lost and ran into the street shouting for him and very frightened. All the time he was hidden in a cupboard in the house. What psychological issues does this child have? Well, he constantly engages in a battle with his mother by wetting the bed. He gained the impression that life in the outside world was full of dangers, and he had concluded that he was only safe if others were apprehensive on his behalf. Only in this way could he reassure himself that they were there to protect him if he needed it. He manipulated them by hiding in the cabinet to achieve his goal of self-protection. This led him to continue bedwetting at age 12 to keep his mother's attention. It's a good example of how physical and psychological issues are linked.